Greetings, folks. Omri here. I hope you're well. It's the first day of Black History Month in the United States. I believe Black History Month is not enough. I believe Black history should be taught daily, 365 days. So I say this is the beginning of 365 days of Black history. And so I'm going to refrain from kicking off my Substack this week with a Black fact. There are a lot of people that are going to post Black facts, and they are good, and that's good. And if they're only posting Black facts in February, I would probably look for those who are posting Black, African American historical facts throughout the year. The credibility is going to be higher, the quality is going to be higher, the variety is going to be higher. The chances that you're going to learn something outside of what you've generally learned is going to be higher. The chances that you understand Black history, so-called Black history, as American world history, are much higher from those folks. So seek them out. Now, I'm going to go to our main thing. I read the following from a DEI influencer practitioner. I think this influencer is quite good. I've actually done a little bit on this influencer on my podcast, so I've referred to them before. But in this case, what they said, I didn't necessarily agree with. It just didn't resonate with me. It seemed contrary to what I think we would like to create in our organizations and in the world. I think it is an affinity sclerotic way of thinking. I'm going to talk about affinity sclerosis a little bit later, but it's a word I've just coined. Maybe somebody else already coined it, but I'm going on record to say I am at least one of the first, if not the first, to coin this term affinity sclerosis. So let me go to what this person said, and I'm going to read it directly. If you're still saying DEI lowers standards in 2024, might I suggest this alternative way of saying it? I am a white supremacist. I believe the European descent, white, cisgender, heterosexual men who have historically succeeded in business are inherently smarter, harder working, and superior in every way than all other people in this world. They set the bar for excellence. There is a supremacy that we can't deny. Creating systems that give access to women, people of color, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, veterans, and other underrepresented people will allow the lower standards of these people to become systemic. We're going to have the brown and Black people and the women and the gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, lesbian people, people that have a disability of some sort, and those veterans, if their lower standards get in, then we're going to see those as the way things are. Now, this is what this person says they want somebody to say if they disagree with DEI and that it can be connoted as lowering standards. I think people that say DEI lowering standards is silly. I do. And I understand in a way why they do. But I don't think very many people have engaged with them in a dialogue. And some of them, I'm sure, wouldn't be willing to be in dialogue about it. But I would like to hear why they think that, because in a way I can get it. Now, they go on. Just say what you believe. It makes it a lot easier for us to do the work. So here was the response I would have given if I would have responded. I have a tendency now to not respond to social media posts because it's, in a way, it's a rabbit hole that I'm not willing to go down much. I'd rather have a dialogue with people. We don't have as much dialogue in the practitioner community unless we're in dialogue about stuff we already agree with. But here's what my response would have been if I had gone down that rabbit hole. I'm pretty sure what you're saying or asking somebody to say won't help. In fact, it's likely to only reinforce this vapid notion of standard lowering if said. It would be like telling them that you declaring that they should say that is absolutely confirming their already always beliefs. Now, what helps is for us as practitioners, for people generally to go beyond representation and understand that DEI is about creating the conditions for people to thrive and do their best work and make their best contribution to the organizational purpose. What DEI practitioners have been expert at is making the case for DEI as solely about righting past wrongs. And there's no problem with talking about righting past wrongs. The problem is that if that's the only tool in their toolkit, then they probably can't change directions, and they'll double down on calling people racist and white supremacists. All this does is hardens the stances of those who are opposed to ideological notions of DEI, ideological notions that are often incomplete, insufficient, and mostly inconsequential at the end of the day. The only consequence when these types of kind of conversational networks of contention are reinforced, the only consequence has been that there's a resistance to the ignoble idea that racism is the only thing we need to solve for. And it results in quibbling and separation and the hardening of affinities. Now, solving racism is a daunting task. And I believe that as long as we have the notion of race as a focus and we see it as a legitimate apparition in our consciousness, racism is likely always to exist. The hardening of affinities is akin to the hardening of arteries. It's mostly about our habits. Interestingly, for those opposed to the ideological positioning of DEI, that is, they see it as an excuse for the mediocre to be elevated to the extraordinary because of their appearance, as well as those who are supporters of DEI, believing that DEI is an absolute necessity in the world, in my country, in a community I'm a part of, in an organization that I'm a part of, because these institutions, these notions are inherently unjust and unfair, mostly because of past and present wrongs needing reparations. So those who are opposed to ideological DEI and those who support it because they believe that DEI helps us right past wrongs both suffer from the same affinity hardening habits. Most of us know why arteries in our heart harden: bad diet, lack of exercise, smoking, other bad habits. These things can be changed, but most of the time, a lot of people don't change them because they're comfortable with them. The equivalent in the ways many practitioners hardening of the affinities happens, they happen with these particular habits. One is adhering to orthodoxy, then preaching and listening to those who agree with them, agree with us, not being willing to be influenced by the so-called other, and bashing discontent. What's fortunate is that we can prevent atherosclerosis by changing habits. We can make our heart more healthy by eating better, by not smoking, by exercising, by making sure we do these things regularly and making sure we're mindful of them all the time. We can prevent affinity sclerosis as well by shifting our ways of being and doing. In our case, as practitioners and those who support DEI, what we can do is adopt a heterodox view of DEI and organizational life. We can be deliberate in seeking out disconfirmation of our ideas and firm beliefs. We can be willing to be influenced by the so-called other. I talk about being willing to be influenced by the so-called other quite a bit because I believe it's central to really creating a inclusion in organizational life. So being willing to be influenced by that so-called, and I use so-called because don't believe there's others. I think there's a we, and that's means that we're all connected and interdependent in whatever human community we're a part of. So being willing to be influenced by the so-called other, and then being a beacon for discontent. What does that mean? So that means you're creating a space that we're creating as practitioners and those supportive of DEI, creating a space for all similarities and differences and their respective tensions and complexities to dance with we, with you as a practitioner, with us as a practitioner body, with us as a part of multiple human communities, We do this, we create this space, we become beacons for dissent and create this space to make sense together rather than rejecting the so called other for a wrong view. Creating the conditions to prevent affinity sclerosis is akin to creating the conditions for people and organizations to thrive. Creating the conditions for people and organizations to thrive and do so in times of relative ease and or difficulty over time is what inclusion, and inclusion being normative in organizational life, is all about. So I hope that was helpful. I also hope that you subscribe to this Substack and to our podcast by the same name, Reconstructing Inclusion. Make it a great day. Peace.